Bert, 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 Bert! Get him, yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the folks from Synovitin. Now, if you've never heard of Synovitin, you're going to hear about it soon. And if you have a dog with elbow osteoarthritis, and that is very common these days in the sporting breeds, you're looking for something that's going to help him get through the season. And that's where Synovitin OA can help. It's a different way to relieve the pain that causes limping and lameness. Just one quick, non-surgical treatment can provide pain relief for up to a whole year. So if your dog's elbow pain has been keeping you and him out of the woods and all the things you love to do together, ask your veterinarian about Synovitin OA or visit activedognow.com/learn more. This procedure can only be performed by licensed veterinarians at veterinary hospitals permitted to use internal radiation therapy. On rare occasions, discomfort in the treated elbow has been seen in dogs that can last up to 72 hours after treatment. Short-term home care instructions must be followed after treatment to minimize extended close contact, such as co-sleeping. To review the full veterinary prescribing information, visit activedognow.com/cpinfo. And just so you know, co-sleeping means don't let him sleep in your bed if you get this done. All right, now we can drop the gates. It's Sunday, the 3rd of April. My Patreon patrons are my biggest, oldest sponsor that I've ever had. I love them all dearly. We had another great Zoom room last week. It was just fantastic. Lots of people showed up. I mean, more than usual. And you just know, if you're a patron, you get some stuff. So we don't need to go down there. What we do need is talk about my title sponsor, Pike Gear. The new Dakota pants are out. The Tongass, the Kiowa, the Northcut, the vest, the shirts, the jackets, the 3/4 zip, all orange rain top, all this stuff. Go to pikegear.com and see what technical clothing for the upland hunter looks like. And then when you're looking for those spring woodcock and grouse like I am, I can't believe you don't have Onyx already on your phone. But if you don't, know where you've been, set a pin, find the next spot, mark it, share it with a friend. You know, don't be stingy. You know, we need more hunters out there, right? And you keep hearing everybody say, oh, more hunters, more hunters. Well, if we want more hunters, we're going to have to share some pins with them. Onyx is a great way to do that. Weatherby. Oh, would I love to tell you all the news from Weatherby. But I don't have any other than the Orion, the Element, their autoloaders, their Orion shotguns are just fantastic. And it's the only company that's ever worked with me in the firearms world that says buy direct from Weatherby and use the promo code HDP and save some money. You never heard me say that about those other two companies, did you? Boss Shot Shells. I wish I could tell you there's going to be enough Boss ammunition for next season. And I bet they are working round the clock to make that happen, but don't dilly and don't dally. Boss Shot Shells will show the birds who's boss every time. Now, you still got to hit them. It's not magic. It doesn't help you hit the bird better. It hits the bird better. It's still up to you. Practice. Walton's has everything but the meats. Everything. They have everything. I mean, that should just be long enough. I'm going to have the founder of Walton's, one of the main Waltons. Actually, it's not his last name, but he's going to come on. Heck of a bird hunter, travels all over the country, and we're going to do a nice deep dive into the history of Walton's. It's actually a professional butchers and kitchens have been buying stuff from Walton's forever, and now it's there for us, the home chef, the home game processor. Everything there from meat grinders to slicers to vacuum seals to, you'll find it. Get their catalog. You'll get it. I just got my load of Purina. I mean, you wouldn't believe this. You could probably figure out that I don't have to pay for my food, right? Purina's my sponsor. They make the best food, and we don't even have to go down there 9 out of 10 and all that other stuff. But here, even us podcast hosts screw up once in a while. I was waiting for my load to come in. I was down to almost the bottom of the Gunner food crate, and I'm like, I'm going to have to run up to Tractor Supply and buy a bag of Pro Plan. And I did. I literally got home, filled up the Gunner food crate, closed it, put it back up on the shelf, got rid of the bag, and I mean, the timing was like spooky. I sat down at the desk here, and the phone rings, and it's the FedEx agent in Grand Rapids saying, hey, when do you want your food? It's like, you got to be kidding me. So I understand it's expensive because I just bought a bag, but it's the best food you can give your dog. Just like Gunner Kennels is the best kennel you can put your dog in, and the best food crates that you can put your food in. Somebody just wrote me the other day. I should have saved the name. I should print off all these emails. Just use that for the whole episode. They literally have an ant problem, and they've gotten ants into their house, into their food. He said, is the Gunner food crate ant-proof? And I said, the Gunner food crate is bear-proof. Yes, it has got a locking top with a foam seal. It's not foam. It's some poly something or other. No, if you put a parakeet in there or a turtle, well, actually, I don't know how much a turtle needs to breathe in, like, say, an hour. But if you put your parakeet in there and closed it and locked the lid, opened it 5 minutes later, that bird's going to be dead. There is no oxygen leaving or entering, so no ants, no bugs, no nothing. You can't go wrong with that. Did you know that people still write me after listening to the podcast and knowing that Garmin's one of my sponsors, and I always tell you, the best in canine training, the best in canine navigation, the best in boat navigation, the best in ice fishing navigation. They're the best, right? If you want to see something in the navigation world, I don't care if it's underwater or up in the stars, up in the Milky Way, Garmin makes that product. And I got a gal called me up the other day from, I can't remember where she was from, but her name was Claire. I do remember that. And she said, Ron, what training tracking collar should I get for my dog? She had an almost year-old Weimaraner. And she said she's a big fan of the podcast. I'm like, oh, you're one of those folks that skip. I get it. And she kind of laughed. And, she's one of them folks that skips all this blah, blah, blah. But she would have already known, and she would have already got her Garmin 550 Plus and the new TT15 collar. She would have already had that. But she's getting it. And I'll bet you can't figure out where. I literally gave her Jason's number from W Hunting Supply because Jason answered a question for her. I actually got off the phone with her, called Jason. That's the kind of service you get from W. Jason answered the phone, answered my question, and he said, Ron, just give her my phone number. Like, he just said, give her my cell phone number. She can call me tomorrow, and I'll get her all set up with what she needs. You don't get that from any other supply company for your dog stuff. Canine Athlete, Canine Pro, Canine Hydrate and Recover, everything you need. If you're going to start running your dog hard this spring, don't think they don't need a little extra, okay? I need a little extra. I have all the, I have all the human products. I do. They have a new one called it's called the Perfect Duo, and I love it. It comes in this little. Anyway, I'll tell you all about it later. Canine Athlete, Wilderness Athlete, and you can get. Now listen, here's a news flash. So don't say I never give you anything as just a listener. Okay, that is so incorrect. Canine Athlete, Wilderness Athlete products. If you are just a regular old listener and you're not a Patreon, that's fine. Canine Athlete wants to give you a promo code for a discount on their products. That's K9 Athlete. Lowercase K, 9, uppercase A, THLETE, K9 Athlete. Now, if that's not right, I think that's odd that they would have a lowercase than an uppercase. Anyway, and if you're a Patreon patron, I'll send it all to you in a newsletter. But K9 Patreon, if you're a Patreon, yeah, that's right. You know how to spell Patreon if you're a Patreon. K9 Patreon. Well, that was a little choppy. I keep hitting pause because I'm just, had a lot of stuff going on this week. Just a lot of stuff. Love you all. Decked drawer system. I love that. I did not get to do a video. I've had a really busy, crazy week. I wanted to do a deck drawer video of the new gun rack that sits in one of them. It's going to be in my right-hand deck drawer. And it's going to be able to hold 4 shotguns when I go on my trips. If you don't know what a deck drawer system is, go online, DECKED, drawer. I don't need to spell drawer system for you, do I? Decked drawer systems. And and like I've told you 100 times, Shooting Sportsman Magazine, it's the perfect thing, especially this time of year. Just got my brand new issue yesterday. Haven't even opened it, but, Shooting Sportsman Magazine, the cover photo is always worth the price of admission. And if you haven't started training your dog, or if you're saying, this year I'm going to train one, for God's sakes, I'm not going to spend the whole time yelling at the dog or watching him spit out birds and my buddies make make fun of it, okay? Be a better trainer. Check out uplandinstitute.com. Yeah, I'm telling you. And, I'll give you some news about that pretty soon. Well, last week, instead of hitting pause, I hit stop. I created a new track. And with my engineering and patching skills and editing skills, well, anyway, here is the second half of my conversation with Max Leonard, the DD. That's right.
Furniture.
Yeah. Oh, he's unreal.
Well, we should have had him come over.
We should have. Yeah.
Maybe I'll come back and do another one.
All right.
But, the Tort for Bellin, something like that.
Tote for Bellin, I'll screw it up, but T-O-T is dead, right?
Bringsel.
Yeah.
So, and what that is, when they do a blood track, because it would be off leash in Germany, you're on private land.
So
you have to do that test here.
You can. Not many people do it.
I would bet.
It's not many people do it. In like Michigan, for example, I haven't read it in years, but like dead game bang or dead game or tote for Bellin would be illegal in Michigan because your dog's not supposed to give.
Your dog's not on a leash.
And it's not supposed to give sound.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It might have changed. When they originally opened it up, and that would have probably been pushing 20 years ago when you could use dog, it had to be unlaid and then it couldn't make noise. So the first measured part or scored part of that, the first distance is on lead, and then once you do the dead game, if you do if
you're going for that part,
the Bringsel, then it's off lead, right?
Right.
Yep.
And if it's a testing situation, it's legal.
Correct.
You're setting it up.
Correct. Yep. And so the Bringsel or the dead game guide, they hang a leather tab, or some people use hose.
When I was in Germany.
Okay. Yeah.
Brand new one. Never used it.
There you go. Now's the year.
Yeah.
Now's the year. So the dog is trained to let it hang until it finishes the track, finds the dead deer. There's a judge there to see it, and then it picks up the Bringsel in its mouth, and then
the Bringsel hangs like a necklace off the collar.
Yep. Like
and
a
the
tab.
dog can just grab it.
Yep. Exactly.
And it's like Lassie going, Timmy's in the well.
That's the best way to describe it. It's Lassie type
and the
stuff.
dog has the capacity to come back and get you.
Yep, and then it has to take you back to the dead.
Yep. And then you read that article many years ago, and you're like, I want one of them. So
there's thing. There's a guy. He's in California. I think he's Greek, and that's his passion is he trains dogs. Like he might
for that. And you can train a lot of dogs for it. It's not a Deutsch Drahtaars.
No, not exclusive. No,
it's a. I've always was told too, and it would make sense. I shouldn't say I was always told. That old book that I read is that if the dog does have a strong bark and he's a strong personality, they'll go for the voice, the barking. And if it's you wouldn't ever call it a timid dog, but if he doesn't have a natural bay or bark, maybe even on rabbits when he was in a young test, you'd go with the Bringsel.
Right.
Because that would be the same thing.
Both of those are well above my pay grade. So, like I said,
have you played with either one of them?
Yeah. The dog I have, and that was the Greek guy that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
The litter mate to the dog I have right now, he ran 2 dogs through VGP at like 11 months old. which is very, very impressive. And he did Bringsels with both of them.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Now, I
like the
would be thinking
graduate
right
work
off the bat,
and then
like,
some.
Too young of a dog.
Yeah. No.
But it's just learn. It's just.
And he's good. Yeah. And
he's good.
And so on that same note, like when you talk about just the differences of dogs and things you look at, I've had my share, I guess, the best way to put it, but the little dog that I had out when you first got here, she was probably the easiest dog that I've had to train. One of the more cooperative, like just willing to learn.
Sweetheart.
Yeah.
Just a sweetheart.
Aims to please. And so the two dogs that he ran that with are litter mates to her.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So there's some great cooperation, great talent, and trainability.
Sure.
I mean, because there's dogs out there, and then you mentioned your first one. I don't think we got into the training part with your first one, but there's some dogs out there that kind of resent training.
Yeah.
I mean, either that or we're so bad at translating it to them, and we're confusing them.
Little column A, little column B.
I'd like to think of it as like, no, they hate training like I hate 7th grade.
Yeah.
Like it was that year where I had to start actually doing some real homework, and I hated it. Yeah. I was an uncooperative student.
One of the big ones that I remember that I had is she was down the line. I'd had a few dogs, and I'd been through the I don't want to say the ringer, but I've been through enough, right? Like I felt like I was maturing and getting better as a trainer, and like each dog teaches you a lesson. Sure. You pick up a new trick. Yep. You see somebody else that does something, and you're like, oh, that makes complete sense. And so you're building your toolbox, right? Thinking that you're advancing. And this dog, I felt like I was back to square one. She made me feel like I didn't know what I was doing. And so, there's always those dogs out there that just, like you said,
figure them out.
You just can't figure them out.
You don't know if it's you, the dog.
Yeah, or like I said, column A, column B.
The sun and the moon weren't aligned when they were born.
Yeah.
A little bit of tongue-in-cheek, of course, because I don't take anything too seriously. And we talked about it when I got here. If you meet somebody who has a Deutsch Drahtaar, it's as close as I can get without rolling and... my dad would have been good at this. My dad read, spoke, and wrote German. Oh, wow. Okay. Fluently. He was born in 17. Okay. Right. Wow. Immigrant parents. Yeah. So German was his first language.
Sure.
But if you have a Deutsch Drahtaar and somebody walks up to you and says, oh, that's a nice looking wire hair. You didn't have wire hairs before. Mm-hmm. You had short hairs, beagles, and now you're in the one dog breed that definitely puts some emphasis on the proper name. Yeah. We're going to use the German translation for German, Deutsche. Yep. Draht. Wire. Yep. Haar. Yep. Hair. Do you correct people?
In context, right? Like sometimes
if it's applicable.
Yeah. If you have the time, or it's a thing, but sometimes, honestly, sometimes it's complicated enough that the answer is, it's pedigreed mutt, right? Like, depending on it. Right. But yeah, no,
But there are some people, like, they would correct, let's say, if you went to a dog park, and you just, like, I'm in town, and you don't walk my dog somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if a little old lady came up and says, oh, my husband had a wire hair, they would correct that old lady. Yeah. They would go, ma'am, this is a Deutsch Drahtaar. Yeah. And I always say, are we going to speak German all day or just the two words?
That's great. Yeah.
But I get the pride part of it too. Yeah. I mean, it's, but then I don't pick it up with the Kurtzar people very much. Now being the short hair version of
the DK. Yeah.
The DK. Yeah. And they're very much the same test.
Very much. Yeah.
Same kind of philosophy.
Yeah. They have a few small variations.
Small variation. But their concern is, quote unquote, is for the betterment of the breed, which I will honestly say that in all the other dog clubs and the one I've been associated with for decades, it's not always about the betterment of the breed. Sure. And that's troubling because it used to be. Yeah. But it's almost like for the betterment of the people. Yeah. And it drives me nuts. And I'm skipping around here, but I think before we hit break, we talked about you don't come back and run, let's say this year you ran a spring and a fall test.
Yeah, we were talking about the testing. Yep. Right. Yep.
You're not going to come back next year and run a spring and a fall test, and then next year run a spring and a fall test.
Nope.
because here's what I got, here's the work I put in, here's what I got. Next year, I'll go to the next level. But you don't keep going back to like the HCP.
Right. And even within that, we
run utility for recreation.
Yeah.
Right. You guys run it like for data.
Right.
I feel.
No, it is. And if you want, I can run in the other room and grab, like they produce an annual breed book that has all the litters produced, the scores of dogs tested, any birth defects, anything along those lines that keeps it in there. So it is data driven, and that's what you'll hear a lot of judges talk at the beginning. You know, they give their little speech and you know, help people with nerves that have them, and you know that people do it because they're passionate about it. Same thing to do. I'm sure you lose money every weekend that you go judge, right? You do it because you're passionate about it. And what they do is a lot of judges will say, even ones that don't breed and don't produce dogs, they say that you doing this is providing invaluable data to the people that are that are breeding dogs to see where they're at, what works, what doesn't work, you know. And so it's very good. And then, you know, kind of on the testing thing, when you're talking about going back the next year, even within that same year that you run, you're limited to 2 tests. And the Germans they don't want sport testing.
Sport testing.
Yeah.
That's what you said when I got here. Yeah. And that just resonated with me. I've seen people that literally in NAVDA, a maximum puppy score, there's always a maximum.
Sure.
And it does not mean, I used to always correct people. I got a perfect score. I said, no, you didn't. You got a maximum score.
Yeah.
There's no
That's
perfect,
great, yeah.
There's no perfect score.
No.
It's a maximum score. And luck can have a lot to do with things.
Sure.
And I've seen people, and I've been with them, I've read their scores to them. And let's say they got 108 or 110 points out of 112. And they have asked the test secretary if there's an opening for the next day to run the dog again. Yeah. That's sport testing.
Yeah.
That drives me insane.
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me that's like having a kid and not being happy with an A-.
Yeah.
Right? And telling him that he's got to try harder. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Try harder? An A-?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another thing that I like about how the VDD didn't waver from that.
Very much so.
We don't want sport testing. We're not here to put a ribbon on your wall and change your license plate. Now, I'm sure somebody in the history of the Drahtaar clubs
of course.
have done it.
There's always one,
The first one I remember was Timmy Clark. He had VCGSP New Jersey license.
Okay.
I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So the guy in traffic's going to know what the hell that means? Or do you walk out in your garage every day and go, oh, I remember that day?
Oh, yeah.
You know? So I'm sure some Drahtaar people have modified your license vanity plates.
Oh, yeah.
But going to the word vanity, it's like they try to keep some of the vanity out of it.
Yeah.
I think.
And I do think it's very much meat and potatoes, and it goes back to, we talked, if you have a hunting lease in Germany, you have to have a dog. So it's all kind of very much meat and potatoes and substance, right?
Yeah,
so,
we kind of live in this weird world here, or you do in the club.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who started the club and keep the registry, they're still living by those rules.
Right.
And the recovery of game is the absolute. You show up with bad gun handling habit, which they wouldn't let you have.
No.
But they would I'm just going on a limb. They would rather correct you for poor gun handling than to not recover game.
Right.
Like, that is the most important.
Yeah. And kind of on that, it just kind of came to me as you're talking and thinking about some of the things to emphasize it. It goes on 2 topics. One is there is an exception to 2 tests, and that's the invitational. In Germany, it's called the Hagewald.
Okay, that's big,
and it's dogs have to have.
Is that invited?
It is. It's an invite, and those are the only scores going back the points I was gonna make is dogs aren't ranked through the tests. There's no 1 through 5. Your score is your score. They're not ranked against each other.
You walk out of there with X amount of points.
They're judged against the standard.
Right.
And then 2 tests. The exception being is these invitational. Hagewald in Germany. The big one for us here is the Armbruster, and that rotates throughout the group North America chapters. Last year it was in Colorado. I think this year's in Utah. They rank the dogs in that one, and that's an exception that you can go outside of your 2 tests.
Okay.
But on the standards, one of the things that was discovered within our group and Group North America is at the Armbruster they would award a most beautiful and a most beautiful male and female, and that was
And that's literally a confirmation thing.
It is, and it's not even necessarily based all on the two numbers that they assign for coat and form. It's the embodiment,
Overall,
the persona that it's voted on by, and they found
that should be next year's duck stamp.
Well,
in the dog world.
right. Yeah. But what they found is those dogs, like the most beautiful male specifically, was being bred more frequently than dogs with higher performance scores, like the top field dog or whatever.
Right.
So they actually got rid of it to kind of
cap that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Kind of make sure they're going meat and potatoes versus the window dressing of it.
Now, this is a total digression. Can you go to an AKC or UKC dog show with an FCI?
That's again out of my pay grade. I would say my guess, if I were to hazard a guess, would be probably not. They generally, once you leave, they don't want you to. It seems like they don't. It's certainly not breeding outside of it,
right?
And so I know there was a little bit of a dust up over NAVDA a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and again, I don't know if they would, especially AKC, because they don't have AKC papers.
Right, but with an FCI registry, so your dogs would come with FCI registry, right? I think that's what.
Yeah,
it is. It's the European. It's the European version of AKC, FCI.
Yeah.
So I know that AKC would, let's just say you had one dog, the first one you bought, and your neighbor said you should register. I would guess that they would take that FCI registry and register it as a German wire hair.
Yeah.
But then you wouldn't be back.
Correct.
You wouldn't be back. They wouldn't let you.
Right.
They wouldn't let you back in the club.
Yeah. And there's been a few that have in my time that have been on both sides, and they're gone. Right.
Right.
They don't come back.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you bred, now and the requirements, are the requirements the same for males and females, the breeding pair? Mm-hmm. They have to get the scores in the spring and fall tests.
Spring and fall, and then the breed show. And
they have to have the right size. There's always, I say your dogs are consistent as I've ever seen with coat.
Right.
None of them are slick coats.
Nope.
One in particular had a really good coat. Mm-hmm. I mean, they all vary a little bit, and then they get older and they get a little hairier.
Yeah, just like us, right? It migrates.
Like, how did I get a sweater on my chest? Yeah. I didn't even have armpit hair.
It shows up where you don't want it and disappears from where you do want it.
My shoulder blades? What's with that? Right. Your old girl out there, she's got white eyebrows.
White eyebrows.
She looks like, what's that actor that's got the, I don't know.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about. But, so, they look at the coat, and you would, I think we should probably touch on, because I mentioned it maybe twice, slick coat. Mm-hmm. Because this dog is a culmination of 4 dogs back in history, basically. I mean, who knows how many?
It's Poodle Pointer, Stickelhaar, Griffs, Kurtzars,
right.
And I think those are. Again,
those are the main
I don't want to go out of my grade.
No, those are the main
out
ones.
Of my deep end.
That would be right.
Yep.
And I remember my friends Ken Whitney and Dick DeCam and Gary. They always had, like, in their papers it would say PP.
Yep, for the mother line.
For the mother line.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool, because anything good I got from my mother. I don't care what you say. I made my gift of gab from my dad, but talent-wise. So it'll say PP, and that designates that the Germans have tracked that back all these years. Does that come into play? Like I would guess yours are PP by looking, but I don't know.
With the color, for sure.
With the color, for sure.
Yeah.
Would that come into play with the breed warden? Like if you had a Harrier line or the more Schimmel?
Generally not. The
as long as the performance is there?
Correct. They do have some restrictions, like the black and white or the Schwarzschimmel dogs. Like you can't breed 2 of those,
Two
right?
blacks, because you're going to get
exactly.
Black.
And the same thing, you can't do like we have, the cult within the cult. Like our kennel right now is all brown dogs,
right?
All of them.
Right.
So those
from a distance, I was wondering where we were walking.
Right, exactly. And so those dogs again are restricted to the Schwarzschimmel. But like if you have, say, 2 dogs that are from, you can even breed brown dogs to brown dogs because it's not a dominant gene. You're still going to end up
brown dogs
with a Schimmel dog in there.
Right.
Because of the recessiveness of it. But you say you have dogs that gravitate more towards the Griff line and are a little bit woolier if you want to.
Woolier, sure.
Yeah, you're going to do it. And, we had a litter with several slicks in it just because, again, you had those.
There's some grandfather who was a German Shorthair.
Yeah, and they've even gone, and it's not specific to DDs, but like one of the big things, they've got a furnishings test now that they can actually.
Yeah, FF.
Yep, exactly.
I got that with that wire hair Vizsla.
Yeah, so.
The girl said, all these puppies will have furnishings.
Yep.
Like, how do you do that?
And then I'll screw it up, but the the square, the Punnett square, that you can, they'll tell you what your percentages are.
Yeah.
So. And ironically, a really wild one, there's a guy, he's a longtime member, he used to be the Great Lakes chairman. He had a German dog from a kennel there that had the same thing. They like brown dogs. They produced a lot of brown dogs. So he imported this dog as a puppy. And that dog, not a geneticist by any means, that dog threw only brown puppies.
Really?
Genetically, it didn't matter. So if you had your Schimmel dog,
you could have thrown anything at it.
If you had 9 puppies, all 9 of them would be brown.
You know what? Maybe he was actually a light version of black. You couldn't tell.
You never know.
Like such a dominant color.
You never know. But
so by accident you ended up with the brown ones.
And kind of the same guys drive. Will only drive Ford pickup trucks, right? Like
so now you're like, You would you get a Schimmel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you wouldn't turn your nose up.
No, the only one, and again, this is back to there's a line of dogs that they've done great with them. They're these fantastic dogs, and I've had 2 out of that line, and I don't seem to get along with them for whatever reason. Just that dog that I said that just gave me fits, right? And then I had another one that was out of the same line. Doesn't mean they're just, you know what I mean? They don't fit.
Maybe not even a fit for you in their training.
Correct. They don't fit me. So the same thing, like they were both black and white dogs, so I don't.
Were they?
Yeah, I don't have a huge fan of the.
I think there's something to it.
Yeah. So again, it doesn't make it right or I don't have anything, but like I think just like anything else, guys shoot certain shotguns, or I only use Benelli or blah blah blah, So I think that's it. We've had a tendency, and I think. The last couple we kept the brown ones because those were the best dogs out of the litter that we thought, and maybe it's
you never know.
Maybe we thought they were the best dogs because they were brown, right? So yeah.
I think we're gonna keep one that looks like Mama.
Yeah. And the one that I had isn't from we didn't produce that dog. I told him I would have taken whichever one, and I ended up with him.
You just ended up
with a brown one, yeah.
What going all the way back to the beginning, you read the article and like you gotta be kidding me, this dog could do this, and this, and we kind of said tongue in cheek before the record, well, that one's great at duck search, that one's a blood track full, this one points like a dream, right?
Yeah.
But you do sometimes get all in one.
You do, yeah.
But in general, it's almost rare to say like you would never say like, oh, all of them from our litter are going to do all of it.
Right.
It's just not.
No
more than it would from. You could probably get a pointer that doesn't back. An English pointer.
Yep.
It'd be rare.
Yep. But you never know.
Probably happens.
And stereotypes and commonalities exist for a reason because they're there, right?
Yeah.
But that is the joke, and I said it as like, you get this dog because it can do it all. Why the hell do you have a kennel full of them?
Because this one tracks good.
Yeah.
This one points good. This one blood tracks
exactly.
Good. And this one likes the water.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Now, we're going duck hunting. We're going to take whatever. We're going to take Bo Cephas.
And you're like, well, take her.
Yeah.
Nah, he's a much better dog.
That's
just sometimes the dog took to something better.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm going to go back to when you don't know where you started. Go back to the beginning.
Sure.
That's Escanab in the Moonlight.
Yeah.
I think. And
liver and onions.
A guy there, and I'm drinking a New Glarus.
New Glarus, yeah.
New Glarus beer from the New Glarus Brew, the Spotted Cow.
That's again, you only get it in Wisconsin.
Yeah. So you got the first one. You read the articles. Did you? In one given year, try to do it all, or were you
not intentionally, but yeah, and it lived up to the hype. That's what I said. That's how you got. That's what opened your nose up. Like wow, holy cow!
You really could point and duck hunt in the same day.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And I ended up shooting a deer and then had a procedure. And like, I'm like, I can't, it's cold and I'll try it in the morning. And I went out and I'm like, I'm going to take this dog out. I didn't, I hadn't trained.
You didn't even train it.
Hadn't even trained for blood tracking. And again, I'm brand new into this, And
damn, I got it.
Yeah, and so I thought, I had in my mind where this deer should go, and I was like trying to, correct the dog, and my buddy came out. It was, to be very candid, I had a vasectomy. I was a little sore, and so I sat in a tree stand. I'd sat in a tree stand instead on the couch. So I'm like, I am really so, so my buddy's like, I'll try it. And he knows less than at the time knows less than I did. He goes out in 3 minutes, finds the deer, and I was like, holy cow, there really is something to this, and she did. She blood tracked it, and it wasn't a complex or technical one. And in retrospect, I'm like, it probably didn't do anything right, but clearly it had some inclination. It knew that, even if it was.
Well, you think about it, without even training for it.
Yeah.
Like that dog smelled the whatever tarsal gland in a deer.
Yeah, it figured out that was the query. Yeah.
And it was like, oh,
yeah,
I know what to do.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I remember that dog particular, when we talk about the grr, to use your adjective, we were pheasant hunting, and this bird got scratched down, and she definitely wasn't
hardest crippled bird in the world.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like she was steady to wing and shot, but I mean, she was a meat and potatoes dog, and that bird went down just some horrible stuff. And we're like, oh, that's very low light, and that dog went in and like came out and bleeding from the ears and just
from all the grass.
It just it was just nasty. Like went into a garbage disposal and came out with it, and we're like, and my wife was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like trying to be model. Like, that actually was really impressive. That wasn't every day,
No, but
9 out of 10
there was a dog that was meant to find wounded pheasants, which are, I don't care what anybody says, the toughest.
Yeah.
They're the whitetail of the feather
For
world.
sure.
You could pound some sand up there or number 6 sand up their butt.
Yeah.
And if you haven't broke a wing, and hopefully you did more
or leg is
yeah, you very well may not get that bird.
We've got
if you haven't hit the vitals.
We've got a friend through the dog club. Same thing. He's a breeder out towards you, and he's developed. He's an unbelievable photographer. His skills just continue to develop, and he's gotten so good that he's does a fair bit of guiding and bird hunting. He's got a couple like impact shots of pheasants, right? Like you can see, with the pellets, and he's like, I don't use those pictures for gore. I use those pictures because and they're centered, right? Like you can see it going through their wings. You can, this is not like a lightly hit bird.
Right.
He says both of those birds hit the ground and were recovered probably 60 to 75 yards from where they were shot.
Yeah.
So they are like, you don't
think it. Everyone's like, they're like, you're kidding. Your favorite bird to hunt is a pheasant?
Ditch parrots. Oh, some people, yeah.
Well, you can hunt them in a lot of ways, which you get a lot of fun at the end of the day. But when you get a dog that can find a crippled pheasant, good friend of mine, we were talking about getting old and when's the time to put the pillow over our heads.
Yeah.
And he said, when you could ask me about his dog's retrieve in Montana, just say like, Dad, tell me that story about Misty's retrieve in Montana. And if I can't tell you that story, then it's time for the pillow.
It's time. That makes sense.
And I got a couple of those from my wire hairs.
Yeah.
Not from any of my Broncos. I mean, they were okay game recovery dogs. But those 2 wire hairs I had, the one was from Canada, or sire was from Canada. It was a DD. I would tell you there's not another breed of dog, maybe the Munsterlander. Yeah. That's a hell of a tracking dog. But I don't know if it's got as much grr.
Yeah.
Gotta have grr too.
Yeah.
And I one time in particular, I put a young dog down on a bird that my buddy, and I saw this bird just tip the wing.
Yeah.
So it's a foot race, and I had a young dog who was not from him. I bought it from John Crozier actually up in Pennsylvania way back, and he kind of stuck to the track, and it was across a cow pasture in the beginning, and he gave up, or he crossed paths with another pheasant. He got confused, came back, put him in the truck. I'm like, I got to find out. I don't have to tell anybody the story if it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't much of a walk, maybe 100 yards. And I go get Zygon. and I bring him right to the fence, right where Rusty was standing there. I'll never forget the shot he took. It was if I'm lefty, but if he was a lefty, it would have been his off way. He spun, clipped that bird, and that bird was gone. Yeah. That bird was running hundreds of yards. Anyway, I bring him back right to the fence where he made a shot. The dog went in there, probably was tracking Tonser there for a while, and literally because it was like a cow pasture with just weeds, I could watch him for hundreds of yards. So he's like kitty corner on a 40, if you will.
Right.
And he's still tracking. And I'm losing sight. I mean, he's this little blip.
Yeah.
And he stops. And the bird pops up in the air, and he grabs it in midair and trots all the way back to that fence, comes right back through that hole in the fence.
Oh, that's why we do it. Stuff like that.
How could it not be my favorite dog in the whole world?
Yeah.
You've got some of them with...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think it's harder than the blood track. Yeah. I don't know that, though, You got out to the Dakotas with yours, right?
We do, yeah.
And where do you go? I'm not exact town, but I mean...
We've been to different places, but the one, our perennial that we go to is kind of like East Central North Dakota, and we can do a little bit of it all.
You can get
You've got Sharpies and pheasants, and we duck and goose hunt, Yep.
Do you think yours, would you say consistently you could do duck retrieving with all of yours?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Maybe not all the best pointing, some crowd more, but that water retrieve, that you had a good story about going down to Missouri with one of your...
Was this... Oh, yeah, when we went to we went to a fancy place. Fancy schmancy place. Where you just show up with your gun. That's all you have to worry about.
And the dog that you hunt with does hand signals and...
Yep, we had a guy that had the robotic lab, as I call them.
Which is great for picking up a bird that you can see.
Exactly, and they do a lot of hunting. They pick up a lot of birds, and my wife had her dog.
Thousands of birds.
Yep, exactly, and we had shot into a flurry, and one went down and picked up a couple, and there was a break in the action, or we had limited out whatever it was. We were okay to get out of the blind, so we said we're going to go look for that one. And he's like, oh, the guy was convinced that the bird was gone, that it was it dropped over the side of a dike and was in like some flooded.
It's not recovered.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And our she goes over there and we put it in the same area, and I would say it's not quite as long as yours, but within a short amount of time came back, and it was like he was like, holy cow, that was impressive. I was like, there really wasn't that, but you should see some of them,
Exactly. You should have seen me yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's one of a guy, an established member of the club, one time I was training a young dog, and we were just kind of going back and forth. And he says, lab people, it's all about obedience, and us, it's just making sure the prey drive's harnessed in the right direction.
Right.
It's like, and they do. You just, and if I were to pick on them, like if I were truly to be critical
of the breed, once you've been in a breed long enough, you can be critical.
They're not the best dogs in the heat. Like if I lived in Arizona or Texas or something like that, I probably wouldn't have them. Yep. And then I think like their desire and nose work so hard together that I don't think they're not good marking dogs. Like I pick on them for their marking all the time. Like.
They're so used to relying on tracking, probably. Yeah. Now I heard this could be total bullshit, which I've been known to do on my podcast.
Could be.
But I read or went to a seminar or saw something on YouTube where the lab's eye socket is shaped different than any pointing dog socket.
Could be.
So the rods and cones are literally better at marking. Not just because they're also taught to sit still. Like if you could and you could teach one of your dogs to sit for a dove hunt, right? I did
for
that
sure.
With my wires. And they don't mark it, dove don't fall that far away from you.
Exactly.
And they kind of rely on their nose to find it. And so somebody told me, and I should do some research, that it's the shape of the eye, and then probably a couple hundred years of being a specialist retriever that makes the lab such a good at marking dog. But you're right. A lot of the German dogs, they don't mark real good.
No, I pick on them. Like even if you say you're summer, you're training and you're hitting it and like
or getting ready for a test.
Yeah, exactly. And you're getting after it, and you're starting to extend your dog's blind, and and all of a sudden you're like, man, It's just, I don't, they can't mark.
You feel like getting your teenage kid. My kid can do better than you.
Yeah. And I've, duck hunted a fair amount with them and stuff like that. And, birds like just singles that go down. You're like, oh, that dog, the dog sees it. Like, and it shouldn't be a real hard, heavy lift.
That
and
depth
like,
perception.
yeah.
I got to blame it on the rods and cones. And
there you go.
It's, means,
exactly.
But I know that's two things that are in mammals' eyes are rods and cones. Yeah. I would be remiss because I make jokes about him all the time. And I told you about Zygon, my favorite dog. His father was the dog I hated the most.
Okay.
And his son Zygon was the dog I loved the most.
Yeah.
And what was funny was Haskell, the father, he never mixed it up with another dog. Mm-hmm. He also didn't care if he hunted with me or another dog.
Sure.
He was kind of just like, let me go hunt. Let me go find something to do. And if it worked out, great, we'll hunt together. I hunted him in Canada one time. And we were up in like this little sharp-tail hold of a burn-over forest.
Ooh, that's fun.
And it was unbelievable. 5 Sharpies a day. Limited out every day. It was easy.
Oh, they're fun birds.
And I never shot one pointed bird over I shot pointed birds over all my friends' dogs. My friends shot pointed birds over him.
Okay.
At one point, John McNeil, I think, or Doc Lick said, "Hey, Ron, Haskell's on a point over here. You want to shoot a bird over him?" I was like, "Why would I care now?"
Yeah, now, at this point.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Shoot the bird.
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, I just thought you wanted to shoot him."
No, it's like a dubious honor that way.
Right, exactly. Or I missed.
Yeah.
And then my cooperative dog, Zygon, was an owly bastard with other male dogs.
Okay.
Not other female dogs. And then my friend Dave Dean this was a DD from my good friend Dick DeCamp. And, no worries. We have all kinds of background noise, dogs barking, make yourself something to eat. He had a DD female. I was telling you the one that they couldn't get bred.
Yeah.
And that dog was a female. It didn't tolerate other females or other males.
Just an ornery.
Yeah. And that is definitely a reputation that kind of comes with the wires and the German wire, the Drahtaars, the Kurzhaars. But have you seen it in the past? Have you seen it change?
I think in my time frame, there's a concerted effort, especially the American side, that they're not looking for that, right? Like they don't want it, and we were talking about it that it's ineffective.
No one's bragging about their kid being a bully
right
anymore.
Exactly. And it becomes counterproductive, and you're going to end up, I think you have a certain amount of grit, and to again go back to your grr, you have these dogs that are expected to do all these tasks and go through train and have that tenacity to do it. So I think you're going to end up with a dog that's capable because of that, right? Yeah. But I think if, like anything else, if you foster it and encourage it, you're going to have a problem on your hand. But if you don't, and then you always have your individualistic. As we were talking, we have a kennel full of dogs, and the Ron that said about the distraction that walked in. We've got an older kid, new college kid. He's got a dog out of one of our litters, and that little brown dog that I was talking about. They hate each other. There's been nothing in specific, and they just don't like each other.
They just don't.
They don't. So but again, we have enough dogs through that. I don't think it's anything crazy. If you have that many dogs that come through, you're gonna just like.
Which does come in handy that your wife's a vet.
Yeah.
If you do get into your.
Well, people always say I just dealt with a vendor and figured out how much money we spent with him last year, and it was not a fun. And people say, "Oh, you get free vet care," and I was like, "No, we don't. Let me show you. we have the most expensive vet care that you can think of." So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
What would have you ever? And this is just like an end bullshit question. Have you ever thought about going to a different breed from getting around, and I'm saying this kind of tongue in cheek, if you test within your organization, when you test within NAVDA, you're going to see Spinonis and Weimaraners and Brittany's and French Brittany's, so you get these other. You're never looking at anything besides
DDs.
A DD.
Yeah, no, not really.
Have you ever started thinking like, I might want to get any of the other German, like the German's Flusher?
No. In all honesty,
Wachtelhund.
Wachtel. Yeah, there was just one. I saw one in Colorado.
Did you?
Yeah. The guy was shocked. I knew what it was. So, in that avenue, probably not. If I were to do something different, it would be, like probably one of your little spaniels.
Get a little cocker spaniel.
Yeah, a little cocker, a boykin.
Right.
The labs. My first real dog was a little English lab, which they have all their pros, but they have all their cons. They're so. Some are so watered down, and now you have silver ones and red ones and pointing and
that kind of comes full circle about watering down.
Yeah.
And some of the things, and I said this earlier. There's people who had even become like judges in the system I judged for.
Yeah.
In NAVDA, that literally didn't know one end of the shotgun from the other. Let alone. I don't say you have to. If you live in Ohio, you ain't got a lot of wild birds on.
No.
But you can simulate it. You can practice for it. You can go to preserves. There are people in the dog world that it's almost their goal to water it down.
I think, gosh, I hate to pick on it, but we do, like Americans, and this is not America bashing, but we're patriotic as we can get, right? But like. I think the Europeans, their model is older and seems to, nobody comes to, the thing I said is you're never going to meet somebody. You'll hear people with wire hairs, trying to convince everybody that's a Draht.
Right.
Because the name translates to the same and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But you won't hear anybody with a Draht trying to convince somebody it's an AKC wire hair.
Oh, it's just a wire hair.
Yeah, and the same thing, I don't think you see a lot of very well-respected and established breeding programs over here infusing dogs from Germany.
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna, you know what I mean? We have a tendency to. I will say water it down and produce it, and even look at the designer breeds now. They're getting $4,000 or $5,000 dogs for 2 years ago or 10. I mean, obviously it's tongue in cheek, but when we were younger, they were just called mutts, right? And so I think we do that. We have a tendency to do it. And one of the other things you and I talked about is the worst thing that can happen to a dog is to win the Westminster. Right? And short hairs have won it, and beagles have won it, and now they're everybody has to have one.
Yeah. I would I told you I never heard that title before, or that sentence. I would say for sure beagle, because the beagle was a rabbit. 40 years ago, I don't think many people owned a beagle,
right?
Unless they rabbit hunted.
Right.
And now, I think back 5 years ago, it was one of the top 10 breeds picked for pet dogs.
Yeah, and it was after it.
And they're a terrible house dog.
They are. I mean, they howl, they run away.
They could certainly be made into a house dog. Don't write emails. But it ain't a house dog I'm going to buy.
No, exactly.
I'd rather have one of my wife's damn corgis.
The farm that I met when I was a kid, I worked at a horse farm, my cousin's farm, and that's, again, got introed into dogs. And he had kennel beagles, and they were stone cold runaways, and, they were nightmares,
Right.
And
then they won Westminster.
Yeah, and now they're everywhere, It's just, I don't know, it's kind of nuts, but I would consider it, and again, see what a different dog's like out to train, just because I've had so many in a row.
So how about hunting when you go out west? Are you hunting with a whole group of family? Did you get around some setters and?
No, not really. And it's not.
You are in a bubble.
I told you it's a cult. The one we were talking about on break that he's the YouTuber, and met him through the dog world. There's a guy that we go out, and when you're talking about hunting, how much fun. Hunting pheasants is, this guy's like such a purist, he only uses vintage doubles, and if he lives out there to hunt, specifically so he can hunt only over hand carved decoys, and if you say, hey, let's go chase some pheasants, it's like you're asking him to go to the dentist,
right?
But no, we gravitate it, and it's like going even to beagles. There's talking about the VJP, and there's a place in north central Indiana that we run a test at all the time, and it's a beagle club, and I was originally I feel kind of like we're imposing. It's second generation guys have been there, and who knows how long the club will last, just because it's not. And I was really worried, I feel like maybe we're imposing. We got these big old German dogs, and I'm sure they just make fun of us, what we expect out of rabbit tracking versus them. And we were sitting on the tailgate having a beer and talking about it. I said, man, I really appreciate it. Hopefully we're not imposing. And he said, I think my dad would be proud to see a bunch of occupied tailgates with beer being drank, And so that being said, I think there's a certain common thread, and whether it be setters or wimes or whatever, people that are using their dogs for the intended purpose. I think we have so much more in common than we have in opposition. So our world is just that. So when we get invitations to go out west or it's because that's who we're interfacing with more so than I would say snobbery. My wife, on the other hand, she's a snob. Like she's, I'd rather not hunt than not have a draught, you know. So whereas
we just threw her under the bus.
Oh, big time. She's not here to defend herself.
Right.
Either.
Your son's shaking his head. Yep. You're right, Dad.
The spy will tell on me. But so no, I and they're neat. They're fun. They keep you occupied, and there's just there's so much you can do to prepare for the testing and the VGP and all that other stuff that I don't. It's unique. It's really really cool. So that the little brown dog, that is my goal, is to do a Bringsel with her this
you
fall.
think it's just because she seem to like to work more?
I think it's a two-part. I think she's
I'm getting the side part.
I think she's the right dog for it, and I've had a handful of them, and so it's more, like that one dog I said I trained through HCP with never put a collar on, so just maybe a little bit of a challenge for myself.
Right.
I met a guy from Germany, and he's one of the big names over there.
Right.
And I asked him, I said, are you going to do the Bringsel? And he was like, why would you not? It's the maximum points, Right. And so it's, he actually had a video on it that I watched. He's really good. So I think she's got 90% of the work done. So it's just putting it all together. I'm going to kind of model this new wire-haired Vizsla I have. Okay.
Which is definitely, it's got more Drahtaar in it than most wire hairs have in this country because Hungary, they took the Vizsla and they took the Drahtaar and they put them together and they worked on the coat and just said, this coat shall be orange.
Yeah.
However they get there, they get there. But the lady who, I'm going to go see a seminar from her in Wisconsin next month, and I've seen some of her YouTube videos in deer recovery, and I think I see one of her doing the Bringsel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that would be fun just to do at a backyard party.
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you what, drag this deer hide.
Yeah.
Because you could probably do it with a tan deer hide, I'll bet.
Well,
and show that dog coming back with that little leather baton in its mouth. That'd be awesome.
The way I've seen it, and the progression I would do is they start with a hide, just in your yard work, and then that's how you develop. Yeah, how they develop the pickup and bring back,
right.
And then you just do it.
You
extend it out. Yep, exactly.
And then turn it into a real.
It sounds easy. I'm sitting across the table from you. Talk to me in August.
Right. So going with that would be obviously a dog that has to be trained to retrieve.
Yep. Already force fetched. Yeah.
Do you force fetch all yours?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And
that's
I
for
think
the testing as well as the. I don't like a bird being spit out.
I do.
At my feet. Either.
I do. I think you can get dogs through, maybe. I think, but you got to have the right dog in the right circumstances, and it's such a fluke. Like I really think it's very. Because with the testing they realize, right? Like, and if you have a crack in the facade, it's just going to get wider and deeper. So
and if your retrieving's not clean, come test day, it's going to be dirty.
Yeah. And the HCP is all about.
You're going to look like the commercial with the guy that shirt doesn't fit.
Exactly.
You didn't show up ready for this today.
No.
So you use a short low table, like with a ramp type table, or what do you?
No, I believe it or not, built one on an old base. It's probably like 8 feet long. I keep it narrow, and I've got a bar over the top of it.
With a cable?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Yep.
And I do all my work. I start on the table and then down. My progression is, whether it's right or wrong, is I do all the hold work on the table.
Sure.
To get them moving, all that other stuff, and then I get them hold, and then I same thing. I think you use place boards, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah. I do a place command, so, and then I do recall. That's all my puppy work. I start with puppy treat training
and what's funny is those same dogs on a wild bird, they wouldn't think of spitting out a wild bird,
right?
But on a test day,
oh yeah,
they wouldn't mind spitting it out.
Oh yeah,
at your feet.
They know. I'm telling you.
They absolutely know.
Well, we talk about enough. Like a guy in our chapter got a test made, and it's like a dog throwing a rabbit in the air, and it's like, never seen him do that before. Right. And it's true. We've all been there. Like
I saw a guy's what did he have? Short hair. He's a buddy of mine. He's a judge, and his dog was on a drag. And he's coming back with the duck, and we were in a hay field that just got hay, so there was round bales.
Yeah.
You know how they're sporadic.
Yeah. Yep.
Dog's weaving his way through these round bales, and this round bale's about 40 feet from us.
Yeah.
He goes behind the hay bale with the duck. And you see the duck clear the hay bale.
Oh, no.
Hit the ground. You can hear it. You can't see it.
Yeah.
Again, and he's calling the dog. Dog's like having a ball, just flinging the duck up in the air. But that dog wouldn't drop a duck if he went out in the water.
Of course, yeah. They know.
Yeah.
They know.
But that's, I'm a big proponent. All my dogs will go through at least a hold and carry.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for
if I'm looking for a test that's going to be presented to hand, and helps with sending them on a retrieve when they know
it does.
Fetch is fetch.
And I think,
With something.
without going in, like, again, I think some of the old training techniques, and there's a lot of really new, awesome stuff out there, but it does, it kind of, that even that bonding process or that going through, I think that does nothing but help you going.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's
time.
Exactly, and it bonds you to that dog. And there was an article I read, and I'll screw it up. He was one of the big field trialers, open field dog trialers.
Pointer guys.
Yeah, exactly. Like hardcore. Like they don't even have to look at a bird, after it's pointed. And this guy had won everything. He'd won he'd been to Ames and won that. And somebody asked him, like, I heard a rumor that you force fetch all your dogs. He's like, I do, because it makes them mine, right? And that's
mine.
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
so I really do. And even going back to like my belief and why I think the testing system, the Germans have it right. And when we talked a little bit about puppy buyers and new people into the club, that even if, it doesn't take a lot, and if the main purpose that you have these dogs is to hunt, right? And to go and get game and be out in the field and pursue our passions. And one of the sales pitches that I use is even if you train for HCP, and even if you go and fail and your dog does that with the duck on the thing, even if you train for that aspect of it, you're still going to be ahead of and we've all been out west and been to these hunts. You're still going to be ahead of probably 75% of the people out there. You're going to have a dog.
Train for the test, whether you pass it or ever take it.
Yep, exactly. And that goes into your force fetch and some even basic obedience. You don't have to do a Bringsel or, fancy off-lead healing.
But that's cool.
It is. It is cool. Yeah, but yeah.
So I'll have to just shoot the shit on the phone with you sometime because I don't remember. I never read anything. I have to look up a video on the Bringsel because I think that would be because I'm a big fan of train retrieve.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And I said it to people the same as you did, and it's we're not from two different worlds. We're from two different organizations.
Yeah.
And that time you spend on that table. That dog is like, what'd you say? It's mine.
It makes them mine.
It makes them mine.
Yeah.
That I gotta write.
And I
that
can't
down.
claim that. That was pro trainer.
I'm gonna claim it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Well,
Right here, over at New Glarus. You ready for
What's
another
the
one?
chance that pro trainer
is
actually listening to this podcast? It makes them mine. That's the best way to do it. But I have found that some of them things you do early, and I don't. We put together a fantastic training thing called the Upland Institute.
Yep, I know about that.
And Justin wouldn't think of doing that with a dog until he's hunted it for a year. Where I'll do the hold and carry at 6 months.
Adult teeth.
I want the school adult teeth, and I want that student-teacher time on that table, and I think that's part of the dog giving himself to you a little bit.
For sure.
And whether you take it all the way to the total ear pinch, you could get by with some dogs with a good hold and carry.
Yeah.
But then if you want to send them on a blind retrieve, you're going to have to teach them what that means.
Yeah.
Because up till then, you keep putting it in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't asked them to open their mouth for it. But
well,
we could. It's almost nice enough to go do something. But you got any woodcock in the backyard?
No.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Might come up with a possum or
you could probably come up with something.
Yeah, but.
Did we miss anything? Oh, the big fest coming up. That was half the reason we were supposed to get together.
So in our backyard, coming up over
in Michigan this year.
in the group, going back to the groups and the chapters, our Great Lakes chapter is hosting the group North America meeting.
And that'll be Europeans coming in for that as well?
No, it's all just
your chapter.
Yep, our national.
Regions.
Yep, exactly. And this year, a lot of times it's, it moves around the chapters, but this one's being held in the Traverse City area at Shanty Creek. Mm-hmm. We're going to have Jonathan Wilkins, who's a kind of up-and-coming wild game chef guide. He's going to be there. Del Whitman's going to be doing a seminar on gun fitting. Yep, he's going to be there. We're going to have some continuing education seminars. Obviously the main reason, and this is really, if it wasn't for the social aspect and the friends and people we meet. I've probably been out of it, and just gotten, just hunted my dogs.
Right.
But, we're going to do some brewery stuff and all that. So, yeah, we'd
So
love to
it's-
see people up there if you have an inkling interest in the dogs.
So it's not closed to members.
No, there's certain meetings that are going to be members only,
Sure,
but yeah,
like
the
any
event.
annual meeting.
Yep, exactly.
But if people really want to come up and dive into this world of the Deutsch, I should do it. I got a good German accent. I just can't. Deutsche Drahtaar.
Yeah.
Deutsche. Actually, Deutsche.
Deutsch.
Deutsche Drahtaar. But if somebody wants to dive into that world,
Yeah,
and people dive in a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have grown a lot over the years.
we have.
They can go up to Shanty Creek. When is it going to be?
It's going to be the Memorial Day weekend before that. Friday and Saturday are the main events.
Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, let me look at a calendar and give it to you.
Yeah.
And that's when most of the-
Pre-Monday holiday.
Correct. And that way, the point of that venue is, the Great Lakes State, Traverse City area is just beautiful. And it was done kind of on purpose. That way,
Make
the
a
members that
vacation out of
have to
it.
come in for the meeting, if they don't want to screw their weekend, they can still be back in time for
Right.
But, we're hoping that
Plus, you
folks
can just do your Memorial Weekend.
exactly
up there.
turn it into it.
Yeah,
and that's
I was just up at Shanty Creek for the Bear Hunters
okay.
Association.
Yeah.
They had me do the keynote.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I don't know anything about bear hunting, but I tried to make them laugh.
That's all the reason you should be the
Tell you
keynote
what.
speaker, right?
Tell you what, getting bear hunters to understand jokes
Yeah.
was not real easy.
Yeah, I've got
I'd
it.
have had a better time keynote speaking and trying to get anybody at your function to say the words German wire in
Yeah.
one sentence
Yeah.
than I had getting bear hunters to laugh at jokes.
Yeah, for sure.
But what do we got? What's the dates?
27th and 28th are the main days of events
May
with the cooking
27th.
demonstrations. And Del Whitman, there's going to be, we've got the guy I was talking about, it's just two fantastic photographers are doing dog portraits up there.
Oh, nice.
And the stud dog review. That way people, and it'll probably be actually opened up to any breed qualified dogs that want to come in, females as well.
No
of
testing, nothing
no
like
testing,
that,
no
breed
it's-
show?
Nope, no breed show, nothing of any that's
Just
sanctioned.
business
or,
plans, basically.
Yep. The annual taking care of business in housekeeping for the
Right.
group North America, and then again the social aspect of it, because I think that's as important.
Would you guys
Something.
do you guys ever make motions to the parent club and they say, yeah, we understand, but no, we will not change.
No, I stay well away from the politics, but
okay.
yeah, there's some stuff, and I think
I'm sure
yeah.
there's always somebody that wants to tweak something.
Yeah,
you know?
mostly it's just making sure everything's kind of staying in line with the goal
What
and
you're
the,
supposed to be
yep,
doing.
exactly. Any new breeding regulations and
Right.
judge development and testing rule changes. There's always like tweaks and
Right.
stuff, but it's always kind of they want to make sure it stays responsible hunting is what it is.
Right.
Like how the
And
tests
to
are
keep
run.
their bar high.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, that is this thing, and I've hit this point 3 times in the last hour and a half. My group, AKC, UK, I don't care what it is. Nobody holds themselves to that. Now you could have somebody who's bred a different dog from their kennel.
Yeah.
You can't know what's in a man or a woman's heart
Right.
to do it right. But the bar that they set for themselves is what impresses me.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, no, we, I've heard this. Just I'm going to pick on lab because I don't have a lot of lab listeners.
Yeah.
I've been told this by people in the lab world. There's Labradors that don't retrieve naturally, which you think their last name's Retriever,
Right.
and that they literally, to get them to pass their test, they couldn't have done it. And of course, those are trained retrieves for.
Yeah.
But they literally, but then the dog passed the test, and then they'll breed it.
No.
And then you don't know you got a grandsire in there that never picked up. Like the dogs that come out of VDDGNA, they've at least proven their mettle.
For sure.
And then whether you hunt them 3 weekends a year or 30, 30 days a month, you've got like a solid database of information.
For sure. Closest thing I can say to, a sure bet, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
In the dog world.
Right. How do you have any litters planned or anything coming up?
No, not.
Oh, is that-
knock
you're saying
on
that
wood,
with a
thank God.
smile?
Yeah, thank God. But who knows, right? The
Right.
the breed, or the lady here at the house.
Would you say, is there a plethora around, or is there always one to be found, or is it?
I wouldn't. If you're looking to get one by the end of the week or for a birthday present, I wouldn't say plan on it. But if
you think in a year's time,
yeah,
you can contact?
I'm sure you talk about this in your Upland Institute. it's like buying a house or a new. It's you don't want to rush into it, right?
Right.
I think if you
might find one fast.
Exactly. Yeah.
Expect.
With a little due diligence, you can. There's going to be dogs out there. Make your phone calls. Do your homework. I think a lot of it. Especially
they may not all be as handsome as your dogs, though.
Well, you never know, right?
I mean, those are some pretty sweet. I gotta get a picture of them before I go.
Thank you for sure. Yeah.
Jesse will be mad if I don't come home with an Instagram picture.
All right, we'll get you some pictures. Yeah.
For the I think that was it, right?
Yeah.
So the big
annual meeting again. We'd like to
up at Shanty Creek.
Expose and get people to come in, and we're making it again kind of even if you're not into the training and testing a dog this year, that you come up there.
Yeah, you're
be part
already
of it,
a dog person. Don't be afraid to go mingle.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about the Beagle Club, we're all kind of cut from the same cloth.
Right. And it's not bilingual. No. It's all in English.
Yep, exactly.
Except those 2 words.
Yeah. If you ever want to see that sums it up best, and again, I had German for 8 years, and I can pass the bare minimum.
Where did you have German for 8 years?
In grade school all the way through high school.
Really?
Yeah. And I was not a good student. So
you don't even see Deutsch Drahtaar good.
No, I try not to. I don't want to even pretend, And so I completely lost my train of thought. What were we saying?
Oh, if you ever want to surmise it or.
This was great.
It was about not speaking bilingual. The only 2 words you won't hear.
Oh, gosh.
I'll hit pause just so we can remember it, because you'll remember it.
Oh, no. We'll move on.
On.
Come on. Now I feel bad.
I can tell it was a good one.
Gone.
It wasn't where you're going to make fun of the 3 tiers of...
No, God, no, definitely not.
We'll save that for another...
Yeah, exactly.
We'll save that for a Zoom room sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Come up, have some beers. We're going to Shorts Brewery.
Like I said, if I wasn't going to Alaska, I told Lyndon that
Alaska's a tough sell to pass up. That's really good.
Really having a hard time. And I've been there a bunch, and I haven't been to your club's annual meeting ever, but I still couldn't pass up going to Alaska.
No, I hear you.
But wherever it is next year, I'll pop out there.
Okay.
I'll pop out there. And what I would like to... Do you guys still bring in judges from overseas?
Yeah.
Or do you have enough here?
We do have enough, but kind of going the last COVID obviously is throwing a monkey wrench in everything, right?
COVID aside.
Yeah. There's we talked a little bit about the Armbruster and the Hagewald. Those are the invitationals. A lot of times the handful of German judges come over for the Hagewald. Yeah. I'm sorry, the Armbruster here on the stateside.
Which would be the version of the Hagewald.
Yep, exactly. And I think it's good to kind of show those perspectives,
right.
And, get the different.
And if you get one that's young enough, and English is pretty much a second language.
I remember what it was now.
Go. What?
So there's a thing we're talking about the names and how long and how hard they are to pronounce.
Yeah.
There's a great YouTube skit, and they've got a couple different ones of it, and it'll be like French, Spanish, something, and then German, and they'll go through and say a word, and it's very romantic.
Like daisy.
Yeah, exactly.
Flower.
And then exactly. Yeah. So we won't throw that at anybody. So
you don't remember any German?
I do, and everybody makes fun. We were drinking beers, the social aspect of it probably had a few more. Yeah, exactly. At one of these things, and I was like, they're. My wife's like, man, your German seems to get better when you're drinking. I'm like, no, it's probably not. It's terrible all the way. I just feel better. Yeah, exactly.
I don't care about it.
Yeah.
No, what would be cool is if we stay, I'm sure we're going to stay in touch over the years.
Yeah.
Now. If they do have a judge that comes over that is pretty good, not has to be good on a microphone, that doesn't have such a thick accent like my grandma.
For sure.
My grandma had broken English. I tried to take German.
Okay.
I went to a woman who taught it in her basement from where we went to church.
Okay.
And after about 2 months of it, she realized I wasn't good at regular school.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're not." I said, "I just wanted to learn broken German."
Yeah.
My grandma spoke broken English.
Yeah.
You knew she had all of her verbs wrong.
Yeah.
But you knew exactly what grandma. And this lady would not teach me broken German.
Yeah.
But see, now I'm going off the damn deep rail on that.
And if you ever...
so if you have a judge come over...
Okay.
And we can ever get together at one of these tests...
That'd be awesome.
At an Armbruster.
Okay.
That would be cool.
Yeah. The Armbruster's a big deal. They're fun.
That would be cool. That'd be cool to watch it and then get to interview some from the old country.
Yeah.
get some real deep dive.
Exactly.
Instead of our watered down dive into the Verein Deutsch Drahtaar Group North America.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like to your jiu-jitsu, I'm like a blue belt in the Drahtaar world. Maybe I know enough.
You got some stripes though.
Yeah, exactly.
Blue belt with a stripe.
Yeah. There you go. But I don't.
You're not a black belt.
There's some people that have been around and have been through the when I say been through the alphabet, it's how many litters of dogs you've had.
Right.
So.
And we tend to. It's not mandatory in NAVDA, but I learned it from the people who learned it from all the German breeders. Your first litter, it's Dancing Duke Abbott, Dancing Duke Annie, and then and they've been through the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly. So it's VOM, whatever your kennel name is. So it's your A litter, B litter, and there's
that Ronnie.
Yeah, exactly. The book that I was talking about, the Altmore. I mean, they've been through the alphabet a handful of times. Our breed warden, a guy out of Illinois, just unbelievably knowledgeable. His name's Mike Schell. He's
I know that name. Yeah, that name's been around forever.
Yeah,
I probably met him back in the day.
Exactly. He's been around, and the dude's he's just an absolute encyclopedia. He actually just got his own mother line established for his kennel. He's been
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably like some of the people that can quote dogs' names off pedigrees.
Yeah,
right?
it's scary how good he is.
That's what I was trying to tease the bear guys.
Yeah.
I said, what's so funny about you guys? I couldn't tell you who my dog's out of.
Yeah.
But I can come up to a bear guy and say, "What's your dog out of?" "That's out of Crockett's Booms, Butts, Boozing.
Yeah.
Her mom was her mom." I'm like, this guy can't read.
Yeah.
And he can tell me the lineage of his bear dog. But this Mike could. That'd be a good one to do.
Yeah, and there's a ton of people that are like that can just know it cold and judges, and it is, and they make it easy. It's an easy world to get lost in.
It sounds like the same world, just one breed.
Yeah.
Same world that I've been through.
For sure.
Well, listen, it's been a hoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I didn't have to get back at some point tonight and
return
we
home,
would go take some dogs out. But I got to get rolling. So Max, I appreciate.
Thanks for having me.
Everything, and I don't think we need any editing. I think we did okay.
Excellent.
All right.